actually give a shit about, and I'm not going to be angry because I actually love this game. Hold on, I gotta check my volume. How is my volume? My speaking volume appears to be fine. Well, I don't know. I'll just make sure. How is this when it's closer? And how is it when it's this close? Okay. Yeah, alright. I'll just make sure that my volume will be okay. And let's go ahead and just read Onikakushi now. As always, when I read, I will not be able to respond to comments. So sorry if you wanted that, but too bad. Oh shit, what the fuck? Wait, hold on. No. Go back. What the hell are you doing? Okay, stop. Hurry up. Continue. Now where do we want to start again? How long ago was October 7th? Shit, I don't remember which file was my most recent one. Uh-oh. Is it this? Okay, yeah, just making sure. Okay, I don't like this music, so I'm just gonna turn this down. Okay, it's always a double Halloween. Okay, I'll be scared. You are aware that this won't be very entertaining, right? Oishi said. Wait, oops, my bad. Can we restart that over? My bad. You are aware that this won't be very interesting, right? Oishi, realizing my resolve couldn't be swayed, finally caved. Right now, to me, there's nothing that I'll find uninteresting. Please. Then there are a few things I need you to agree to. Okay. Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? It might not be true. I don't understand what you mean. There isn't one main investigation from the mysterious chain of deaths of Hinamizawa. Each one is treated like its own individual case. Thus, Ryugu Rena has never been linked to any of the investigations. Basically, you see, this isn't an investigation of Rena done by the police and isn't personal inquiry. Is that what you're telling me? This will make things a lot quicker since you understand. All of it is from either phone calls or meetings and interviews, so they aren't corroborated. I'm asking you to take this all with a grain of salt, is what I mean. Do we have an agreement? All of it is just from what you heard? Yes. My apologies. It's all my personal investigation, you see. That thing before, you said you saw Rena's chart, didn't you? I'm sure you heard you said that. Oishi paused for a moment on the other side of the line. I told you that too? Please pretend you didn't hear anything about that. I didn't care about Oishi having certain obligations and responsibilities. I also didn't care if there was no proof. Even if they were just rumors, there's no smoke without fire after all. Please tell me, Oishi. Understood. Oishi finally opened those tight lips of his. It seemed that Rena lived in Hinamizawa a long time ago. She had moved to Ibaraki Prefecture after she finished elementary school. Then following that, right after transferring, an unfortunate incident with the breaking of the school windows happened. Then Rena confided to the doctor it was Oyashiro. This is all that he knew. There isn't much of a difference between that, what I know, and what you know, Maibara. Then what part did you investigate further? I didn't need to ask. It was the incident that happened just after she transferred. The incident that Rena was responsible for and what she divulged to the doctor were afterwards, correct? Yes. After you learned about that, you started suspecting Rena and the others, didn't you? Yes, I did suspect them. So they're the ones after all. No, that's not what I meant by suspect them. Oishi was the type of person to say things with confidence, but these particular words were less than reassuring. Then, who did you suspect? That it was Oyashiro. Huh? That Oyashiro's curse really exists? Yeah, right, well... Oishi's laugh was quite dry, certainly not the kind that would make you want to join in. Sorry, oops, it's not Keiichi speaking. Oishi resumed the conversation about the dubious circumstances behind Satoshi's disappearance, the course of events up until the start of delving into Rena's past. Just then, there was a thunder in the distance, and a heavy rain started to pour down. It came without warning, rain so heavy it felt like it could beat you down. I had left the window in my room open a crack to let the heat out. The violent wind danced into my room, letting the curtains flap wildly. What is it? Nothing. It suddenly started raining heavily. Sorry, please continue. I got up while still on the phone and closed the window. I said at the beginning it was an incident, but because neither the school nor the victims filed charges, the police were never involved. So you see, those involved were very reluctant to talk, regardless of there being a victim who had one eye beaten so badly that it had permanent damage. It could have been the school or possibly some individual who made the arrangements to keep this from going public. Also, the psychologist was very strict about their professional ethics. Hello? Maibara, can you hear me? There was a figure of a person standing by the light near the mailbox this whole time. Even this torrential rain, they didn't have an umbrella. They were unquestionably drenched from head to toe. In this shower, which more resembled a waterfall, droplets of water dripped down from her hair. Just standing there, both arms dangling at her side. In one hand was a stack of boxes wrapped in cloth. Her eyes focused on my room, focused on me as I was about to close the window. Her mouth was methodically repeating a chewing motion. It was as if she had something hard to chew in her mouth, with her cheeks puffing out. What could she be eating over there? How could it be at this time I was more enthralled by Rena instead of the shocking developments being brought to light by Oishi? If it hadn't started raining, I wouldn't have gone to the window. Then I wouldn't have noticed Rena, nor would I have noticed that. Rena's mouth was moving in the same pattern. She wasn't eating something. She was repeating something. What was it? What was she repeating? To me? What was she saying? Why was I right up against the window fixated on her? Hello? Maibara, can you hear me? Hello? I'm sorry. Huh? Maibara? I'm sorry. 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 Hello? Maibara! What's the matter? Even in this torrential downpour, Rena was still apologizing. The other self inside me drew the curtain hastily, with my right hand blocking my view from the outside. But even doing that, Rena's relentless apology still reached my ears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I forgive you for this, will you forgive me for that? Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. I'm sorry. 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 Damn it! Why did I have to forgive her? I'm the one who wants to be forgiven. What part of me can't you forgive? I won't be killed. If you won't forgive me, then I won't forgive you either. I won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive, won't forgive! My bride, if you can hear me, then please respond. Hello? New tips. Split personality? At the 7th mark. Okay, let's read these tips. Oh my god. They're playing this song? This is Rika's song. Well, whatever. I love it, so I'll let it play even though it's not right. It's one of my favorites. I could listen to this song for hours. Anyway, I see it in movies quite often, but what is it exactly? Multiple personalities are thought to be escapism. Multiple personality disorder is a form of escape. Correct. The exact mechanism is not fully understood, but it's believed to be a type of defense for the brain to retain mental stability. By the way, this is not correct, but it takes place during the 1980s in the Showa era, so I would see why they were referring it to that way. But I believe the correct name is DID for dissociative identity disorder. I'm not like a psychology expert anyway. I just like, it's just something I'm curious about and I like to know because, well, there's a reason why I was attracted to reading and watching this series. Well, not one of them, because I was actually attracted first to the music, but when I read further, watched further, it did activate my curiosity. Anyway, hypothetically, poor people imagining themselves as wealthy is a form of escapism, is it not? Is this also a form of multi-personality disorder? I wouldn't go that far, but broadly speaking, one could infer that it's something that occurs in us all. Does a split personality occur when one cannot escape, when one cannot tell which is reality and which is the escape? That is difficult to say. There are some who agree with that and some who disagree. There is no consensus. Then, is the occurrence of multiple personalities still an unknown phenomenon, something not fully comprehended in the psychiatric field? Unfortunately, that is the current state of things. We can only put our hope in future research. But it's sort of cool having a split personality. What kind of people get split personalities? Recent studies show that those who develop it, or rather, those who are more susceptible to developing it, may be genetically predisposed, or may have had some abnormal mental development. Some say that childhood abuse increases the chances. Oh, definitely abuse. Speaking of which, person A here experienced abuse as a child, didn't he? How sad! Person A has 7 different personalities. Let's watch a video of him. I have no idea how to interpret the tilde. I'm assuming that they are either being... I don't know. Right after these commercials! Oh, wow, of course. Yeah. From considering the tone of it, especially with the right after the commercials, I would kind of take it with a grain of salt. But I think it's kind of like, do you think Rena has a split personality? Anyway, I wouldn't know. Well, okay, I'm just lying to you and saying I wouldn't know when I actually perfectly know. Anyway. The 7th mark was a bargain supermarket with food and alcohol. What is this, Keiichi? So many! There's no reason to get all different kinds, is there? I flopped all the different colored cup noodles into the cart. Cup noodles have gotten so elaborate recently, and there's a bunch of different types. I want to try each of them at least once. I knew it was pretty selfish of me, but I thought I'd at least give it a try. Keiichi, buy them in a big case. It's cheaper. Dad faltered. Well, I had a feeling it'd end up like this. Dad knew there was no point of him butting in. Then I'd only get to eat one kind. I'd get bored with it. I was resisting as a formality. I had already given up inside and wasn't sure which case of noodles to get. If you can't pick them, Mommy will pick for you. You don't have to rush me. I quickly searched the case of noodles for what I want. Pork bone and ginger, large cup? Hey, Keiichi, can't you get a more normal one? If I let Mom pick, she'll err on the side of safety and get soy sauce or salt flavored. Pork bone is good. I don't want a big bowl of tasteless stuff. I remembered insisting that the noodles I picked were the right kind. In this frozen memory in time, this encapsulated world, I didn't have the power to look around my surroundings. So, I did what I could and reached out with my hearing and vision, sharpening my senses to find the presence I overlooked. No matter how much I searched through my field of vision, I couldn't see Rena. I was around the situation searching, but of course I couldn't find her. That's creepy. What? I thought I am charging it. That's annoying. Come on. Get in there. Ugh. Okay. Then, was she spying at me from my blind spot? I go through the sound and presences again, looking. I could sense the other customers. They were all mixed about, moving as they please. There was nobody looking over me this way and no one trying to get behind me. Not here. Couldn't be here. Probably wasn't here. I would definitely notice if someone was right behind me, even if I wasn't on my guard. I smiled wryly at the thought of using a vague word like probably right before contradicting it with definitely. Then I paused my mental replay as a chill ran down my spine. There was definitely a presence like a shadow behind me. That was a terror like any other. If a presence really had manifested behind me, I would have definitely turned around to check for it. But the world had moved on, and there was no way for me to turn around. While carrying that frightening shadow on my back, I was gleefully running around the store searching for a case of noodles, running through the instant noodle section, bad-mouthing my mom. But there was that presence constantly at my back, sticking to me like a shadow. No way to see what it was. Realizing it now after the fact, it was horrifying and repulsive. At that moment of time, I was running around gleefully, carrying that cardboard box. Tip-tap. But listening to that moment again, I could hear footsteps other than mine going pit-pat with every step. Tip-tap, 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 pit-pat, 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 tip-tap, tip-tap. While I was running, the sound of those barefoot footsteps going pit-pat were right behind mine, me running around gleefully in that closed-off moment in time. I didn't hear it. No, I heard it. That's why I remembered it. I didn't think I had heard anything. That's why I didn't turn around. That is why I didn't turn around. That moment, the pit-pat of those footsteps were following me the entire time. I couldn't run faster and escape. I couldn't run any faster than I had ran at that time. I couldn't turn around. I hadn't turned around before, not once. I returned to my parents and started talking. The shadow-like presence was right behind my back. I didn't move, the shadow didn't move. That is why I made no sound. That was all. By the time, I hadn't taken a single step while talking with my parents. I was just standing there. This was undeniable, and yet I heard it. A pit-pat. I shouldn't be. If I took 3 steps, it followed 3 steps. Wasn't that the rule? There was no sound other than that. By the time, the entire world had gone dark. Sudden darkness. It was the end of my reflective journey. I was tired. I wanted to end it. Someone turned on the light, except my body couldn't move, as if it was sewn into that moment in time. Pit-pat. My past self's hair stood on end. It's impossible. I was just breaking the rules. I haven't moved, so you shouldn't be moving either. I couldn't move, so you shouldn't be able to move either. Follow the rules! Pit-pat. That sound echoed in the darkness once again. The hair on the back of my neck pricked on the end. It was so close. It was hard to tell whether it was touching the hair or not. Why couldn't I move? Like how the presence was moving behind me. I quickly realized I could move. It's just that I was scared and didn't want to. Now was the only time I could turn around. It was something unforgivable in this moment in time, but I needed to turn around immediately. As if my entire being was trying to force me to stop, it began to administer a pain like a needle being stuck in my every pore. I'll turn around! I'll turn around! I'm not scared at all! I'll turn around! I'll turn around! I'm not scared at all! I screamed. I was unable to vocalize. I turned around. At first, I couldn't understand the meaning of it. What? What is this? The situation in front of my eyes. It was like a mouth biting an apple and slurping the juice the way that you would do with an apple. My mind was being eaten. It began to munch down, slurping the juices, because it was like an apple. Meaning, what in front of me was... Uh-oh. Ugh. Keiichi had a nightmare sounds. I should have saved. Son of a bitch. Okay, there we go. There we go. I guess I'd be lying if I said I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there were definitely gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in a panic all night. That is pretty accurate to how a nightmare feels. I like that. I love Ryukishi's writing. I can't wait for this Silent Hill game to come out so I can play it, even though I'll probably be scared shitless. Because I'm a baby. I spent all night hugging the metal bat and sat on top of the futon I used as a barricade to my door. Waiting. Waiting. Watching just in case someone tried to break in through my window. If I left the spot, someone would break through the door, sending the futon flying and attack me. But if I stopped watching the window, someone would break through the glass and attack me. I tried telling myself I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought of being so vulnerable scared the living daylights out of me. If sleep meant that taking that risk, I didn't need it. It was just so much better to stay awake. At some point during the endless cycle of nodding off and jolting awake, light began to shine outside, but that was it. It wasn't so much the morning as it was the sun simply having risen. I snuck a peek through the curtains. Rena was gone. I couldn't see her anywhere, no matter how hard I looked. Finally, I could breathe, a deep sigh of relief. The night was finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired, but I didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. I still had time, but I needed to make my own breakfast, so I'd better get started soon. Skipping soon was also an option. With my mom gone, it'd be easy to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risks involved in leaving my house was incalculable, so staying holed up in here was probably my safest option. But staying here wouldn't solve anything. Oishi wouldn't help me without cold, hard evidence. Neither he nor my parents. So unless I found some sort of proof, these relentless nights would never end. I stretched my body, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes just like I did every morning. I regulated my breathing and regained my senses. Calm down, my bird, Keiichi. Let's go to school. Let's wait until they set their trap for me. But that didn't mean I was just going to twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid that trap and secure irrefutable evidence. Excuse me. Take note of the plates of any cars that drive by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself. I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to when two samurai were both aiming to slay each other with a single motion as if they drew their katanas. I was not at an disadvantage. I would have had a chance to retaliate. I finally felt a bit of courage growing in my chest. All right, let's go to school. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's bat. He was the only partner I could count on. Ooh, keep in mind in this, Satoshi's role in the story is very interesting. So, keep in mind, this is our... We've seen Satoshi mentioned a lot. Obviously, he's not going to appear once in this story. But I wonder what will happen in the development of Satoshi later on. Anyway. Satoshi, please lend me your strength. And entrust your dying regrets to me, since you were probably murdered. I'll make sure I dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. It was still early. Of course, I was going to school by myself today. If I didn't want to run into Rena or Mion, I needed to leave now. The shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn all over the entryway. Right. I meant to clean up last night, but never got around to it with the phone call and everything. If my parents came back and saw this while I was at school, I would never hear the end of it. Still, I'd be wasting time if I cleaned it up right now, and considering what would happen if I ran into Rena or Mion, it wouldn't be too late to clean it up after I got back home. Making extra certain that the doors were locked, I left the house. My uniform was still covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it from the washer. Today I was going to go to school in a tracksuit. By wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different from yesterday. I had a hunch. Today might be the day I get killed. Keep your guard up, my Barakeiichi. The only one who gets to decide if today is my last is me. I spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. After a while, Rena arrived at school. Our eyes met, but we said nothing. Rena said nothing about last night, as if it never happened. But I could see that those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. I just heard her telling Sadako and the others that the bandages were from hurting herself in the kitchen, though it wasn't like it bothered me. The details that Oishi shared about Rena's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. Now that I knew about it, I couldn't even dream of Rena as a cute, ideal girl. Kei-chan, I see you're still aiming for the nationals. It was Mion. I'd already sensed her approach, so I wasn't that surprised. Oh, Mion, if you understand, then leave me alone. I'm busy practicing. I gave her a curt reply without my usual jokes. Then I gave a bat an even larger swing, technically keeping Mio from getting any closer. Hey, Kei-chan, take it easy! I think Mio got the message, but she still urged me to give it a rest. Homeroom's not that far off, is it? Just let me finish practicing. I swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal. Kei-chan, when did you get into baseball? Just recently. Recently? You mean yesterday? Don't ask if you already know. Oh dear. That's a very unsportsmanlike reply. You're distracting me. Go away. I ignored Mio and kept swinging. Normally, she'd get mad or bored and leave if someone gave her the cold shoulder like this. But Mio just stood there, waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. I didn't sense any hostility, but we were at school in Plainville. I doubt she'd suddenly attack me here. Or was that too naive? Still, I was starting to get tired. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to take a break and hear her out. You need me for something, right? What is it? Sweat poured from me as I stopped swinging. I noticed my shoulders were heaving as I breathed. I cursed my lack of exercise. At this rate, I might not be able to move as needed when the time came. I should probably keep practicing my swings to build stamina in addition to the excuse for carrying the bat around with me. Well, it's nothing important. If you're tired, I can ask again later. Now is fine. I'm only dealing with you right now because I judge this situation to be safe. Talking to you alone and away from others? That's out of the question. Well, Mio was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike Oishi, it didn't look like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. Mion was puzzled, trying to find the right thing to say. But then she gave a hearty laugh to break herself out of that mire. This old man's just no good at this stuff. Having a poor vocabulary hurts. What's this all of a sudden? If you have something to say, just say it. Stop it! Stop that swinging! She cut straight to the point. Her request was so frank, I didn't understand it for a moment. I'd already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I? I just stopped, didn't I? That's not what I meant. I want today to be the last day that you swing that bat. I'm sorry. It took me some time to understand what she was asking for. What's wrong with swinging a bat? Why? It's not your business, is it? I'm not bothering anyone, am I? You are. Mio said it flat out. This didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating. When did I bother anybody? Mio was at a loss for words, as she finally made up her mind and spoke, though she stuttered as she said it. Because, Kei-chan, that's someone else's bat. You shouldn't borrow without permission. It was left behind by a student who transferred, right? I'm just borrowing it until he comes back for it. Yeah, he transferred. Mio grew uncharacteristically flustered. That made it all too clear that his transfer was a lie. But strange, isn't it? For the older brother to transfer by himself, while his little sister stayed behind? Mio couldn't hide her reaction, as my words shook her up. Kei-chan, you knew? Hojo Satoshi, Sadako's older brother, right? The one demoned away last year? Unable to respond to that, Mio fell silent. Rena asked the same thing. Why did you start swinging that bat? She told me Satoshi did the same thing, practicing his swings, right before he went missing. So, is this some kind of omen for Oyashiro's curse? Shh! Mio panicked and looked around. Please, Kei-chan, please don't mention Oyashiro so recklessly. I don't believe in him, but the others very much do. Rena especially. Dangerously so? Anyway, you're scaring everyone. If you're just fooling around, then stop it. You have to stop acting like Satoshi. I was the one who was scared. Who do I have to thank for taking up this bat in the first place? But still unsettled me knowing that my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It'd be the one thing if someone suggested it, but I thought I was making my own decisions. I'll say this now. I don't know anything about Satoshi. After all, you didn't tell me anything about him. We didn't mean to hide it. You were hiding the incidents that happen every year, weren't you? That's because we didn't want to, You didn't want to scare me? That's a reason for leaving me out? No, we didn't mean to. Mio, I asked you directly if something happened at the dam, didn't I? And you told me nothing happened. When someone was dismembered and murdered, you lied to me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lie to you. Friends don't hide things from each other, right? Isn't that right? Then you all aren't my friends. Kei-chan, Mio looked helpless and flustered. I imagined the tears in her eyes. I never could have imagined Mio acting like this. Oh, by the way, those get well mochi you bought the other day, they were good. I thought I was going to bleed. Who did it? You or Rena? Me. She admitted it so easily. I couldn't help but be surprised at how easy that was. You could have killed me. How could you do that to our friend? But it was just a little prank. Mio gave me a wry smile mixed with confusion, causing even more anger to well up inside me. You think that was a prank? I grabbed Mio by the collar and lifted her up. That wasn't the same as putting Tabasco sauce in a piece of mochi. It was a needle, a sewing needle. If I'd swallowed that, and it lodged in my throat, what did she think would happen? Mion's face froze as her body rattled in fear. This wasn't the Mion Sonozaki I knew anymore. Anyway, you're not my friend. There's no reason for me to listen to someone who's not my friend. So just leave me alone for a while. Got it? Mio wasn't replying anymore. It won't be that easy to erase me, you know. The cops have been onto you from the start, so don't think you can make me disappear like you did Satoshi. I said it clearly. This was my declaration of war. I think you guys are suspects in the previous incidents, too. I also know you spent a lot of time with the cops ever since the anti-dam movement. Don't think you can hide from me. Got that? How do you know? Mion stood there with a dumbstruck look on her face. That was when I heard the principal ringing the bell for school. It was time for morning homeroom. Let's go. The class representative needs to be there, right? At the moment, for the first time, I realized Mion was sobbing as tears ran down her cheeks. You're so mean, Kei-chan. I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilty. I'm going. Don't be late for homeroom. I left Mion, still shaking, as I turned around to head for the entrance. I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Behind my back, I could hear her muttering. It was a faint mutter, as if she was speaking to herself. So that's how it is. Huh? She wasn't saying it to anyone. It was Mion talking to herself, but it was a sobbing voice that had a kind of giddy cursing tone. I inadvertently stopped and turned back toward her. So it was that bastard. He leaked it all to Kei-chan. She balled up her fists as her tears continued to rain down. She glared at the spot at the ground with a terrifying, yet smiling face, cursing. A chill ran down my spine from that demonic expression. This transformation, Mion's transformation, was different from Rena's. I should have killed him back then. He forgot the mercy I showed him just because he was going to retire this year. Retiring this year? Was she talking about Oishi? Damn it, I'm going to kill that damn old man! It felt like the air itself had begun distorting. With Mion at the center, the world had begun to twist and spiral, bending, swirling. This is the first time I'd experienced such a visage. So was it you, or was it Mion? Or was it you? Sorry. I watched a YouTube poop a long time ago. I think it was a guy named King Les. I don't know if anybody has ever, seen, the Higurashi anime with the YouTube poops. I wanted to make that joke just now, but I withheld. But, you should totally watch, King Les's YouTube poops and, hear the dub voices. I love them! Even though they're technically bad. It's a guilty pleasure, in a sense. I never watched Higurashi dubbed. I watched it subbed first, but I enjoy watching it in YouTube poops when people, edit the clips for fun. That's hilarious to me. So anyway, let's continue. Rise! Attention! Mio made up an excuse for her red eyes, saying that there was something wrong with her contacts. After that, neither Mio nor Rena spoke to me for the rest of the day. Neither Sadako or The bell rung, signing the end of the monotonous school day, which I felt so tense, yet so dull. Since it would cause a lot of unpleasant memories, if they asked me to join the club activities, I promptly started preparing to go home without even looking at them. I stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's now familiar bat, and began heading toward the entrance. We are climaxing. Not like that, but we're on the last part of this chapter. I know we're gonna finish this. We are going to finish Onikakushi. And then I'll see you next time when we start Watanagashi. I was assailed by both the exhausting relief that nothing had happened today, and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. But deep down inside me, far beneath in the recesses of my heart, achingly, I knew this would be the last day of this cycle. I couldn't tell how the ending would be, whether it would be the end as I wished it to end, or if it wouldn't end as I hoped it wouldn't. Regardless of my current state, there was something more important than how things would end. There was something I wanted to know. I love how introspective Keiichi gets, even though this is a world of tragedy. In the anime, we get to see how he can act like a moron and stuff. But the anime really cuts out all of Keiichi's introspection that I so enjoy hearing from his thoughts. Why did I have to be killed? How did it come to this? Why? For what purpose? The sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, even the air. They wouldn't give me my answers. Could it be that the cries of the Higurashi were desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere mixed in their shrieks, Tomitake and Satoshi were probably also trying to tell me something. I simply haven't able to realize it yet. When I do realize it, I wonder if I'll be amongst the Higurashi, fruitlessly crying to the next victim. Glancing down at my feet, I saw a Higurashi on its back, spasming weakly. There was this much of summer left, yet this one had already chirped its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying, no matter how hard I listened. But I had to try. I had to try to listen to what it was desperately trying to tell me. At the moment, the shrills of the Higurashi ceased all at once, as if they had held together, fearing that the person who brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. Presence was approaching. The sound of footsteps was almost non-existent. If the Higurashi hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I wouldn't have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat. Its place was a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all my senses. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for long, but in this moment when I needed to be razor sharp, I was able to retain my composure. I wasn't going to shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself calmly amongst the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. Could I get them to pass by me? No. Since I was able to hear their footsteps, they were probably also able to hear mine. They might have already been able to tell that I'd hidden myself while holding my breath. The person tailing me, was it Rena? Just like yesterday? If it was Rena, I wouldn't hold back. I could just yell at her and make her go ahead like yesterday. If it wasn't Rena, it would depend on how they acted, I guess. Footsteps ambled closer. I swallowed, wiped my clammy hands on my pants, and readjusted the grip on the bat. I could tell the fear that I had beaten back once was now waiting for another opening to come at me. Who could it be? I peeked out from behind the tree at the person following me. My imagination hadn't led me astray. It was Rena. There was a bit of relief as I realized it was someone I knew, but that feeling left me in an instant. This wasn't the same Rena that I knew. Her eyes were dark and lifeless, but her mouth appeared as if it was carved into a crescent. Yes, it looked as if she was grinning slightly. In her right hand was an axe, or her hatchet. I hid myself behind the tree once again and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare. Baseball practicing my swing, there were tons of excuses for me to be carrying a bat. But for that axe, there was no excuse for that. An axe just like that.
Keiichi, are you playing hide and seek, I wonder?
My heart was pounding, hard enough that I had trouble breathing. little composure I'd been able to hold on to was now crushed. In its place, cold sweat gushed forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken hold. Not good. Not good. Not good. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here.
Were you trying to scare me? I wonder.
I decided it'd be better to reveal myself now, since there was still space between us, than to allow Rena to come any closer. I adjusted my grip on the bat again, readied myself mentally, and stepped out from behind the tree.
I found you, Keiichi.
Rena was pleased as she found me, eliciting a mysterious giggle. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes told me she was displeased by the fact that I had been hiding. Those eyes, they were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Not good. A bit of my stomach, some sort of viscous, hot, and cold substance began spreading around. If I allowed it, that substance would slip into my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all the organs in my body. Not good. Not good. I'll be devoured by Ren at this rate. Strike back! Don't lose! What is it? I blustered, hiding behind my bravado. But Rena didn't flinch one bit.
Just the same as Keiichi. I'm heading home.
Then what about that axe?
Then what about that bag you're holding?
I'm practicing my swing.
Then I'm treasure hunting.
Rena gave a flippant explanation as to why she had such a fearsome weapon. Treasure hunting?
At the treasure mound near the dam site, I found a new cute thing, so I needed to dig this out.
How could I believe that?
You wouldn't believe it, would you?
Rena's laugh was obviously very strange. I'd seen Rena's transformation many times before, but this one today was completely different. Like her mischievous tone and the shrewd glint in her eyes, it wasn't something that ran about. I'm not sure what to say. It was so obvious.
Wait, Keiichi.
Rena didn't stop walking, even as she let out that eerie laugh. Whenever Rena got too close to me, I would scurry away and turn back toward her. This cycle repeated over and over. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Rena and was trying to escape. Don't follow me!
I can't do that. My house is this way after all.
When I met with Rena on this road yesterday, she cowered and trembled as she followed my commands. But today was different. Rena didn't show a hint of trepidation. Actually, wasn't I the one who was cowering? The way home for Rena and me was the same. That's fine, I just changed my route. That'd work out, wouldn't it? I turned onto a side street I'd never been down and knew little about. But Rena saw me do that and followed me while laughing. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? Then just go down the street you normally do. Why? Would you follow me down this weird little side road? Those thoughts screamed in my head, eventually spilling out of my mouth. Why are you following me? The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror.
Because I want to talk to you, Keiichi. Keiichi wants to talk to Rena too, doesn't he? Doesn't he?
I don't want to talk about anything with you.
That's a lie, isn't it? There's something you want to ask me about, isn't there?
Not at all. I have nothing to talk to you about.
That's a lie, isn't it?
It's not a lie. Lies! Rena's scream echoed, startling some nearby birds into flight. I cringed in fear. The only thing I could do was increase my pace.
Let's talk, Keiichi. Talk. Talk.
How was I running down this unfamiliar and deserted street?
Doesn't Keiichi have something he's worried about?
Nothing at all. I'm not worried about anything. Lies! Even though I was running, even though when I was walking, why wasn't I getting any farther away?
I know. I really do know. You're scared, aren't you, Keiichi?
I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anything. Lies! My breathing grew heavy. It felt like my legs were giving out from beneath me, but I wasn't even breaking a sweat.
I'll listen. This time I'll listen.
I had no idea what she was talking about, or what exactly she wanted to do.
This time I'll listen. It'll be different from the time I was with Satoshi.
When she said Satoshi's name, I turned back for a moment. But even as I did that, Rena was still advancing. I couldn't afford to stop.
Satoshi was worried too. It looked like he was having such a hard time. But I didn't listen. I was so sad.
Where did this street connect to? All these twists and turns, ups and downs. It was hard to believe that this was even remotely in the direction toward my house. My sense of direction had long gone out since the window.
I really regretted it when Satoshi transferred out. I thought if I had listened, he may not have transferred out. I really regretted that.
The road led me deeper into the forest. Wasn't I getting farther away from the village the more I ran? I lost more and more of my composure the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was still disturbingly calm.
So you see, I vowed. I vowed that if there was someone struggling like Satoshi did, I'd save them. I don't want to see anyone transfer out again.
Damn it! What does transfer even mean? I won't let you transfer me! I won't run out to the state of Satoshi!
Come on, Keiichi. Talk to me. I'll be able to understand you, Keiichi. I'm your ally.
I started wheezing out of breath. My lungs were so hot they felt like they were going to explode. My heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. I should have practiced running instead of my swing. I couldn't even afford to scoff at that stupid thought.
If Keiichi doesn't have anything to worry about, he'll go back to normal. Everyone will be back to being friends and we can enjoy club activities again. Next time we'll team up and beat Mii-chan.
Yeah, how fun that would be. But I couldn't even imagine how much I had wished I could turn back the clock on these few days.
You could be nice to me again too. I want to go searching for treasure again. This time I'll prepare a nice lunch. Actually, we could just go right now. Let's go up to the dam site together. I'll show you the cute thing I just found. I'm sure you'll like it too.
My footsteps made pathetic flapping sounds as my legs wobbled and faltered. Hopped on my heels, Rena's steps were sharply breaking twigs underfoot. I had to accept it. I was on the run, being chased by Rena. If she caught me, it was all over. I realized it instinctively. I couldn't even begin to think of what the end could entail. Just if I was caught, it was all over. That's all I knew. It didn't matter how it was going to end. I wouldn't let it end. Not without knowing anything. Not yet! That momentary lapse was all it took. Of all the things that could have happened, my knees buckled underneath me and I crumbled toward the ground. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my back as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Rena was already standing right in front of me. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, Rena was so cool and composed that she could have froze the air around her. She wasn't breathing hard at all. Rather, I couldn't even sense if her heart was beating.
Are you afraid of something, I wonder? It's not like you to tremble, Keiichi.
Her expression almost looked affectionate. Those soulless eyes, that mask of affection. As she admonished me for trembling, Rena's hands deftly slipped over her head. The blur of arms as they moved made me feel as if I was staring at the godliness of the thousand-armed Buddha. And both of her hands met above her head. The axe that she held came into focus. I stared up at it in disbelief. It was all I could do. Tell me, what happened to Satoshi? Rena stayed with that, with the axe raised above her head, and solemnly opened her mouth. It was as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she was never going to see again. That cruel scenario resided somewhere in her actions.
I I told you. Satoshi transferred. Out.
Enough of that transfer crap! It means demon away, doesn't it? Doesn't it? You can tell me now, can't you? Who made Satoshi disappear? Was it you? Mion? Or someone in the village? Answer me! I became frantic the more I screamed, but Rena did nothing but maintain the same frozen smile on her face.
I have no idea what Keiichi's talking about.
Then I'll say it in a way so you do! Who's the perpetrator of this chain of mysterious deaths?
You seem to be confused, Keiichi. There is no human perpetrator. Everything is by Oyashiro's will.
Isn't Oyashiro's curse just a superstition? You believe in that too?
It's not about believing or not. Oyashiro exists. Period.
Rena's gaze grew even more galled. The ferocity of her stare was so intense, not allowing me to question anything. There's just no way that something like Oyashiro could exist!
You don't believe in Oyashiro?
There's no way I could believe it! There's no way it could exist!
It exists. Oyashiro exists. Keiichi should have felt it personally.
I never felt something like that!
Keiichi, haven't you felt someone apologizing to you before, constantly, on top of that?
All the noise from the outside world disappeared. Only Rena's voice resounded loudly and terribly.
You see, until you forgive them, they'll always be with you. At school, at home, at your bedside.
I couldn't understand what Rena was saying.
It came to me too. Oyashiro did. That's why I transferred and came back to Hinamizawa.
I don't understand. I don't understand. What does transfer even mean? What was Rena saying?
Hasn't Oyashiro come to you as well, Keiichi? I'm probably the only one who you can confide in. I won't let you transfer out, okay?
Rena's demented laughter clanged around inside my head. Was Rena saying Oyashiro came to her as well? That's right. Last night I heard about when I asked about Rena. Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? Oishi began speaking. Neither of the victims nor the school filed a complaint, so there's no preliminary report. Basically, the police hadn't intervened in this matter. So all these details are just what I heard from those involved. Meaning it's not that credible. You said there were victims. Didn't Rena just break all the windows? No. Ryugu Rena had attacked 3 boys, using a metal bat. 2 of them made it out with only bruises. The other had been injured so badly that one of his eyes was permanently damaged. Wouldn't that be considered assault? Shouldn't the police have arrested her? For whatever reason, the victim never pressed charges. There was no report to the police, so they were beaten with a bat and suffered significant injuries. Normally it would be a criminal investigation. But why didn't they press charges? I tried asking the 3 male victims for their side of the story, but they were all reluctant. It's hard to say, but they were all afraid. Even after she had transferred schools. Oishi. Could you summarize it from starting from the beginning? Rena hit people while she broke the windows? Or was it she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? sounded similar, but the meanings were drastically different. On an undisclosed date, Ryugu Rena was conversing with 3 male students, close friends of hers, near the pool storage shed. Who were those 3? I can't reveal the names, but they were close to Ryugu Rena. It seems they were a group of friends. They were close to Rena, and she was the lone girl in her group, so it wasn't strange that the 4 of them were together. So what happened? I don't know the reason why. She took the baseball team's bat that was in the pool storage shed and beat the 3 of them down one after another. What? There were no witnesses. This was an account pieced together by the information given at the time of the incident. One day after school, Rena and 3 male students were at the pool storage shed talking together. They weren't seeking help, rather, they usually met up there. It appears it began a heated discussion. At that time, Rena underwent a change. The change was so abrupt that the 3 of them didn't comprehend what was happening. Then, taking the metal bat, she attacked her friends, one after another. Leaving her friends covered in blood with gashes on their head, she made her way toward the school building. Then she broke the glass windows one after another. A few minutes later, a teacher appeared on the scene and subdued her. What was this change Rena underwent? What matches up in the statements from the 3 was a sudden change. The point that there was a transformation. I also could recall Rena's transformation. I'd seen that change many times before. It was so different from the usual Rena that I couldn't help but believe it was someone else who looked like Rena. That transformation they were talking about, had it happened before? No, there was nothing like that. As far as... What about Rena? What about police? Why wasn't there a criminal investigation? You see, the police can't get involved unless they are called. Even though one was badly injured with permanent damage? Why didn't they file charges? That's what caught my attention as well. Either some threat or pressure was placed on them, or they had a reason they couldn't file charges even if they wanted to. We're talking about you after all. Of course you looked into it, didn't you? Well, yeah. But I told you at the beginning, didn't I? That the victims were all very reluctant to talk. They didn't want to touch on the matter, or rather, they didn't want to be involved. Reluctant to talk. Didn't want to touch it. Didn't want to be involved. It resembled the villagers here in Oyashiro's curse. Did the teacher of the school tell you anything? A school is a hallowed ground. You could say they tend to keep their scandals under wraps. I didn't have a search warrant. Said to tread lightly, you see. Then there was no comment from the school. No. They denied the incident even happened. It's just 3 male students were carried in for blunt force trauma that day. That's all there was according to the hospital records. The victims didn't speak and the school denied it happened. Then you don't know anything at all. Yeah. I know nothing other than the incident itself had taken place. The victims also wished this incident to be kept from the public. So if you and I both forget about it, Nabara, this incident will probably just fade away. For a brief period, we sat in silence. At first glance, it looked like a simple assault case, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. The depths were obscured by roiling waves, sinking quietly into the void, as if it never existed to begin with. After that, she was suspended by the school, and during the time she underwent psychiatric counseling. Did you hear anything from the doctor? Again, they were very professional in regards to their ethics. Or, at least very tight-lipped. Nothing, even after you show them your badge? I was told to get a warrant. The badge itself has no legal binding authority, after all. And how did you know that Rena confessed that it was Oyashiro who did it? There was a nurse I asked in that department. She agreed to help me, just from showing her my badge. Then, what did she say? Turns out the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently, all she remembered was that she overheard what was inside the room. The nurse said at the time, Ryugu Rena was very calm and mild-mannered. It was more like she was confessing her sins at a church than a counseling session. She spoke with her mother there for some of it, but partway through her mother was asked to leave, and it became a private counseling session between just the doctor and Rena herself for a while. The part with Oyashiro, when did that pop up? Partway through. She screamed the name suddenly. That startled the nurse, and that's why she started listening in. It was Oyashiro! Rena suddenly said that. I had no idea what was that said before that, so I had no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor calmly and collectedly asked Rena to have a seat. What is this Oyashiro you speak of? Gently, ever so gently, the fundamentals of counseling were believing what you were told. Whoever abandons Hinamizawa will be hunted down by Oyashiro, and they finally gotten to me! That's the town you lived in before you moved here, isn't that right, Ryugu? I didn't want to move, but because of my mom and dad's circumstances, we had to. But Oyashiro wouldn't allow it. Ryugu must have had lots of friends in Hinamizawa. Even now you must be missing them dearly, don't you think? I want to go back. Back to Hinamizawa. No, it's not that I want to go back. I have to go back. I should have come back much sooner, but it's now too late. Oyashiro has come. Oyashiro is the name of the god Hinamizawa, isn't that right? Everyone knows it's Hinamizawa's guardian deity, and if you ever try abandoning Hinamizawa by leaving, you'll incur his wrath. You moved quite a while ago, didn't you? Then it was just now that this god arrived. Is that what you're saying? You might not believe me, but Oyashiro exists! That nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That's all she remembered. Then it was Oyashiro's doing, right? I do believe that there's some kind of superstition in Hinamizawa. That if you leave the village, then you incur Oyashiro's wrath. You should be familiar with this part, Maibara. I knew very well that those scorned by the village incurred to hinder the dam construction project. They cursed the construction foreman to his death. The following years, Sadako's parents, supporters, and leading advocates for the dam were cursed to their death. But this is the first time I've heard of the curse incurred by leaving the village. This is my first time hearing that. I can understand outside threats being cursed by the village, but why also villagers who leave? Normally people who leave the village are supposed to be cursed, right? I know it's strange to say it, but I could see it as a rule that people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter. Far from his thunder. Curses weren't something to chase after people that leave, were they? Oishi pondered for a bit over on the other end of the receiver and began speaking again. Well, I told you long ago when Hinamizawa was called Onikakushi, didn't I? I recall hearing that. Long ago, Hinamizawa was feared and respected as the village of ogres. The villagers at the foot of the mountains worshipped the ogres, so Onikakushi was hollowed ground that you could never enter. It came to be said that if you entered carelessly, you were cursed by Oyashiro. Those who set foot in Onikakushi. In other words, Hinamizawa would be cursed. I could understand that. I know that, but for leaving to also be no good, that's... Also the ogres, you see. They were being strictly watched by Oyashiro, so they would not enter into our world. In other words, Oyashiro probably restricted interaction between Onikakushi and the rest of the world. I see. I finally understood what sort of thing Oyashiro was. So basically, Oyashiro is more like a warden than a protectorate deity, I guess? Trying to keep this place isolated from the rest of the world? I guess that's how it would seem. I'm sorry, I don't know very much myself. This is mostly what was passed on to me from my grandmother. I could understand it a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hinamizawa would be cursed, and those who try to leave would also be cursed. So because Rena originally lived in Hinamizawa and moved away, she fulfilled the requirement for being cursed. So that means Rena moved away against its wishes. She was cursed by Oyashiro. Is that what it adds up to? In short, it seems that's what it points to, I guess. As a matter of fact, soon afterwards, they did move back to Hinamizawa after all. Those who abandoned Hinamizawa and left were cursed. But then, why only Rena? Shouldn't Rena's parents also have been guilty of the same transgression by moving away and having been cursed? Also, in this day and age in Japan, shouldn't there be a lot of people coming and going? If every single one of them was cursed, that'd be insane. In reality, it wasn't a big of a deal at all. At most, there'd be one person dying and one disappearing on the day of Watanagashi. I don't like saying at most, though. Well, anyway, there's a lot I still don't know. Even if it was Oyashiro's curse, it doesn't add up to why her classmates, the victims who were beaten with a metal bat, wouldn't press charges. You don't think the victims were cowering because they believed in that terrible curse that had befallen them, do you? Of course I didn't want to believe it. More importantly, I had just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Rena made between Oyashiro's curse and metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Oyashiro's curse and went missing. I had recently learned that Satoshi had also become infatuated with the metal bat right before he disappeared, just like me. Then Rena as well. She was affected by Oyashiro's curse. She confessed that much to the doctor, and the weapon which she had used at the time of that horrendous act was, again, a metal bat. And finally, me. I had countered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding on to a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. Couldn't be. Had the same thing happened to Rena? But there was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. That being, Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse, but Rena was still here. Both of them had fallen victim to Oyashiro's curse, yet they were met with different endings. And finally, me. I couldn't recall it a coincidence anymore. Rena, Satoshi, and finally, me. Could it be that I was really under Oyashiro's curse right now? No, more importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been demoned away, vanishing without a trace. Rena was fine. Fine. Rena had undergone a change. I couldn't believe that there was something that Rena wasn't residing within her. And here right now it was standing right before me. Rena, please tell me. What will happen to me? Rena stood imposingly, not answering. Satoshi disappeared, but Rena doesn't disappear. So what will happen to me? I had never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. It had become akin to the sound of her breathing. It was no longer a voice or an expression of feeling.
Don't worry, I'll save you.
Rena took one step forward, still holding the axe high above her head.
Now then.
One step closer. Rena's face spread out to fill my vision. Speak. One step closer. Rena's nose was enough to touch mine, and was still pushing closer.
There's something you want to say, isn't there? I'll listen. I'll save you, okay? Speak, okay? Speak, okay?
I slumped down, landing squarely on my butt. It wasn't for some pathetic reason. It was all I could do to get away, as far away from Rena. I had a gut feeling that I couldn't let her laughter end, because when the laughter ended, the moment I picked up that feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my feet so fast I couldn't even believe it, and pushed Rena away with both hands. Rena was as light as a feather, thrown about by an unbalanced weight of the axe. She was sent backwards, as if she'd carried off by the wind. After confirming that out of the corner of my eye, I dashed off at full speed. I was the perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig. Get away from Rena. Run away. Survive! I couldn't think of anything other than this. While I was running, I remember I had been holding onto the bat the entire time. such a worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I forgot about this weapon at such an important time. Okay, before we continue. No, wait. I sped even further down the winding path. I didn't even feel myself gasping for breath or my legs getting heavy. My body understood it well. If I didn't run away from here, I wouldn't live. I could hear the sound of the simulacrum of Rena coming from behind me. It ran through the trees in my head, slowly chiseled away at my sanity. The grove of trees thinned out, my field of vision suddenly expanding. Where was this? For a moment I was bewildered by the scenery, and I felt I knew, but I couldn't quite remember. I quickly realized this was the dam site. The fact that I had matched Dad madly and ended up in a place like this gave me a bad feeling, like I was following someone's scripted plot. I had a good view of my surroundings, but I didn't see a single soul here. It was a terrible spot for someone on the run, but there was no better place for an attacker. My heart was already on the verge of bursting. The muscles in my legs were screaming, but I didn't care. If I stopped here, they might not even be able to scream for much longer. Even still, I glanced back looking for an excuse to rest, but it wasn't there. Instead, I saw 2 villagers walking around. I breathed a sigh of relief that it wasn't Rena, but a third party, except the voice inside me rang the alarm once again. Villagers walking around here weren't suspicious in of itself, but it bothered me. They both wore rough-looking clothes, empty-handed. They definitely gave the impression that they were just out for a walk. But at this time of day, 2 adults wandering around without a purpose, it was enough to raise questions. But more than anything else, those eyes. They weren't chit-chatting while walking. They were both silent, heading forward, looking in my direction. Was I at the end of my rope and had finally started imagining things? I should run away. That was probably the best choice. If they weren't involved, I'd lose them easily by running. If they were part of the group after me, then they would come running after me. Either way, unless I hurried up, Rena would catch up with me. That's right. I was going to run. Deciding that moment, I began to turn tail. Both of them rushed toward me as if they knew exactly what I was thinking. Somewhere inside me, I jumped to the conclusion that Rena was the only thing I needed to be afraid of. I made the assumption I didn't need to fear anything else. But right now I realized just how blatantly wrong I was. Suddenly the story Oishi told me about the demons all leaving the village to hunt prey floated through the back of my mind. I could tell they were both coming after me without turning around because of their frenetic footsteps. It was frightening because being unable to shake off Rena as she slowly closed in on me. But this didn't even compare, being pursued with such violent ferocity. The straightforward horror was unparalleled. One of the pursuers' arms grazed my shoulder. Now it wasn't just their frenzied footsteps, but also the distinct sound of their breathing that I could hear. No, I could practically feel them breathing on me. They were already right behind me. Calm down, Higurashi Keiichi. Still running at full tilt, I felt the surrounding area go still. No, it felt like time itself had stopped. I turned my head back slightly in that frozen world, realizing how close my pursuers had gotten to me. I couldn't win against the legs of an adult. In less than the time it would take to blink twice, when this frozen tang began moving again, they'd be right on top of me. On top of me, and then... Don't think about that, Keiichi. First realize you won't be able to shake them off like this. If the fact that you can't get away was a given, then you need to make a decision. Go with the right or go with the left. You just need to decide on this one. Let's go with the left. The moment I decide with that, the temporal singularity burst into pieces. Right, left. I swung the bat in an wide arc with my right arm. Using that inertia, I stopped and suddenly spun. Whoa! The 2 of them were clearly startled. Momentarily losing sight of me, both of their outstretched arms, ready to grab me, instead grasped at empty space. The man on the right, I applaud him being able to figure it out, spun around on the spot I shouldn't have been, and faced me in astonishment. But it was too late. I didn't even need to swing my bat. All I needed to do was extend my arms as I turned around. It was by no means a heavy blow, but it seemed like it had enough power behind it to knock him off his feet. But just knocking him down wasn't enough to scare him away. He got back up in no time. Both of them had took a fighting stance and were ready to face me. This made me certain they weren't just 2 people out for a walk. They were clearly after me. It felt much easier than dealing with Rena. Just not by recognizing their faces. By not knowing them, it made things easier. I smiled wryly on the inside. What do you want with me? Next one's going to be right in your face, you bastard! It's fine if it was just a bluff. By barking out at them, I was able to fire myself up. They didn't respond. They spread out to either side of me with unbelievably calm expressions on their faces. One of them would grab onto my bat and the other would hold me down. Was that their plan? Taking on both of them at once would be impossible. Hot sweat poured from every pore in my body, and I'd just have to settle with the first move. I'd step in and strike the first one down. Narrowing my target down to the man on the right, who had already been knocked down before, I stepped in and swung with all my might. There was no way for an unarmed person to guard against it. It would cause immense damage. If they blocked it with their arm, their bone would snap like a twig. If they turned their back to it, it was possible for that blow to travel all the way to their vital organs. It looked like he was aware of this. He pushed forward through the kill zone between us and delivered a fist right into my gut. Not good. It was this distance in this position. In this stage, there was no way for me to dodge it. The world flipped upside down. I understood that I was being tossed around like a rag doll. I landed on the soft earth without a sound, feeling the grainy soil press against my face. It didn't hurt at all. But the moment I thought that, I suddenly felt pain coming from the abrasions on my skin as well as the contents of my stomach being forced upwards, flooding my mouth with a bitter sensation. I knew very well I didn't have the time to relish this experience. I stood up as quickly as I could, but at that moment the other man was already barreling toward me. Being able to comprehend calmly that I simply couldn't dodge, make it all the more upsetting. After plowing to my stomach full force once again, my assailant twisted around behind me and locked his thick arm around my neck. My throat felt like it was being crushed by his immense strength. I couldn't even contemplate that I was being strangled or I was about to go unconscious. My vision simply darkened, and a silent whining noise began playing deep inside my mind. I took everything I had to keep myself from blacking it out. While this was happening, the other man was more than likely standing in front of me. I wasn't able to open my eyes, but I could feel that he was there. There was nothing I could do now. Unable to shake his arm off of me, I couldn't run. I couldn't fight back. Dire straits. I couldn't even come up with a phrase that adequately described my situation. So one of the things I wanted to say is, when Rena says, "I found you, Keiichi," it was the first time that I had seen the anime. First I saw trace edits of Smash Brothers with the song "You," the Higurashi song that was composed by Dai, and I looked for the anime and I saw the AMV, and the first line that Rena says is, "I found you, Keiichi," but in Japanese, not in English, you know? Anyway, a familiar ceiling, the smell of the beds and pillows. I knew them well. By the way, another thing I wanted to say is, like I said, Ryukishi's writing is not always perfect. It would have been better to put, I'm glad in the anime at least, and in the manga and other adaptations, that the scene of Rena and learning about what she did at school was placed earlier. Because I don't think it helped here. Was this my room? Normally there wouldn't be anyone in my room besides me, but their presence made me spring wide awake. When did that pain shot through my entire body?
Feeling alright?
Huh. Interesting how Rena's here.
I think you better just lie down for a bit.
Why was Rena in my room? Blood began to surge through my muscles and my capillaries. But Rena's smile belonged to the Rena I knew well. I knew I shouldn't have let myself feel this way, but I was relaxed, thinking this version of Rena was safe. Why am I?
Don't you remember?
After losing consciousness, nothing at all. My body had become more lethargic than I could have ever imagined. I guess that would be expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there. I tried to at least clear my head, but I couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind. Interesting that he's home again with Rena. What is the reason for that?
I called the doctor. He should be here soon. I think you should just lie down until then.
I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing that someone impartial was coming was slightly reassuring. Why am I here? I'm sure I was at the dam site.
That's what I want to know. What happened? When I got there, Keiichi was already passed out.
That's why I'm the one who wants to know. I was attacked by two weirdos. As I talked about it, I finally remember what happened right before I passed out. Recalling that memory and the terror that went along with it caused the fogginess around my head to clear right up. Let's forget about those two for now. I didn't expect Rena to be nursing me. I thought Rena was trying to kill me. She would have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she had nursed me back to health. Amazing that you could drag me all the way back here. Wasn't I heavy? Looking at Rena's delicate frame, it was hard to believe that she had not only gotten me back home, but even dragged me all the way up back to the second floor. Did she have some help?
Don't you remember, Keiichi?
Rena appeared a bit surprised, but still kept her smile.
I only propped you up on my shoulder. You said you could walk on your own and that you are fine. You don't remember?
I didn't remember. My memory was fuzzy after the point where I lost consciousness. What about those two?
Huh?
When you got there, Rena, the ones with me, or rather those two guys.
There wasn't anyone.
She said it bluntly. The way she said it felt slightly unpleasant. I was just too timid at that time. I might have been able to force out some answers out of Rena. But if I did that, this kind of Rena might transform into the scary Rena who I didn't know. Fearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it, it was the obvious choice. If both of those men were there, I don't think Rena would have even stood a chance. I wouldn't find a way to explain it unless I assumed she brought me here after those two were already gone. Rena was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. Yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something, akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. That small omen sent shivers down my spine. While Rena was still Rena, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Oishi. Rena stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep. I'd like to go to the bathroom, though.
Sorry.
Rena couldn't say anything else. All while Rena stayed in the room, I quickly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. Give me a moment. I need hydration. When I approached his front door, the doorbell rang. It must have been the doctor Rena had called. It was strange for a patient to welcome in the doctor who was making a house call, but it would be incredibly reassuring to have him here for the considerable time it would take Olishi to get here. I carelessly opened the door with that simple assumption, and regretted it almost instantly. Mion! Oh, you look just fine. I heard you collapsed, so I came in to check on you. How do you know I collapsed? I heard Verena over the phone. Do I need any other reason than that? I understood why she would call a doctor. But why Mion too? Verena was descending the stairs behind me. Verena, doesn't Keijan look pretty alright? Sheesh, you made me worry for nothing.
That's true. Maybe I worry for nothing as well.
They both began laughing. It appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a darkness looming over them. Whoa! What's up with this shoe rack? How'd it get like this? The shoe rack that I'd smashed to pieces had been like that since yesterday. I fell, you see, and the bag I was holding at the time slammed into it. That's what happens when you swing around something that you're not used to handling. I kept the fact that it was none of her business to myself.
But leaving it like this will really startle your parents when they get home. I'll fix it up for you later.
Now come on, Kei-chan. The terminally ill need their rest. Come back in bed. Back in bed. Both of them urged me up the stairs. I had no chance to call Oishi. I was pushed into my bed. As it was the first time Mion had been in my room, she began searching around it intently. She fiddled around my room and was scolded by Rena. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign that it was heartwarming. During that innocent conversation, Mion said something as though it was perfectly ordinary. Rena! Did you call the manager?
Yep. Right after I called Mi-chan. He said he'd be right over.
Manager? That out-of-place word gave me a bad feeling. Rena called a doctor, then called Mion, and after that she called a manager? Who was this manager? Since Rena and Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd. What are you two talking about? Who's this manager? Didn't you know, Kei-chan? What do you mean the manager when we say manager?
Like the director of a movie, or like a foreman of a construction site.
I dug through all my memories for a manager who might have business with me. Only one thing came to mind. What Rena had just said. The construction site foreman. The very first victim of the incident. This member at the damn construction site? The foreman? That was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There was no way they could call him. I don't understand what you guys are talking about. What does that manager have to do with me? You said he was coming. Did you mean in my house? I asked one obvious question after another. But all the two of them did was smile coolly at each other. There was a huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly, I felt discomfort and panic welling up inside me. I couldn't understand what Rena and Mion were talking about. Kei-chan, you've gotten into baseball lately, haven't you? Pretty sure the manager will be happy to hear that. So who is this manager?
The manager is the manager.
So who is this manager? Rena and Mion looked at each other and laughed haughtily. A disturbing cackle unpleasantly resounded around me. That laugh, long enough to be unsettling, ended abruptly. Oh yeah! We should finish up before the manager comes. You remember, don't you, Kei-chan? Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a different story. Remember? Remember what?
Keiichi, had he forgotten, I wonder? About the penalty.
Did you really forget? The homework with the Botomochi. The homework where you were supposed to guess which one Rena made? The Ohagi? You forgot about the homework, didn't you? I certainly did have that homework, but I'd thrown away the rest of the Ohagi after I'd found the sewing needle, so I wasn't able to answer which one Rena had made. The penalty for that? Why now? No doubt my question was written all over my face. Their answer to my question was that dry laughter. I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think this entire day was somehow insane. Strange. Incomprehensible. Being chased by Rena. Attacked by strange men. The penalty Mion and Rena were talking about. What were these two laughing at? It didn't take that long for me to realize I had been dragged into an abnormal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who were these doppelgangers of Rena and Mion? Rena had gone behind me at some point. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back? What are you doing?
Don't move. This is your penalty.
My body was already very sluggish, and Rena pinning my arms made it that much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength. It would have been impossible for the Rena that I knew. Then, these thin, frail arms grasped me firmly. Whose arms were they? Kei-chan. No struggling. Club rules. There are no exceptions. You can't fight against the penalty. Mion. No, that thing that looked like Mion spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me. But I was certain this was not Mion. Someone who wasn't Mion. Someone who was just pretending to be Mion. Need to finish this up before the manager comes. Mion fished into her pockets and pulled out something bizarre. I could tell what it was just by looking, but for such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind wouldn't accept it. What is that? It was a small syringe. It was a small, clear syringe, like what a doctor would use when you went to him when you were sick. Rena held me even tighter. I could hear that clattering laughter that no longer sounded like laughter blaring into my ear. That eerie laughter. It wasn't something that Rena, I knew, could ever produce from her own throat. This thing that was pretending to be Rena. Was this their real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion was holding drew closer. That needle tip was waved in front of my face countless times. Don't worry. It won't hurt. It won't hurt. What are you planning on doing? What kind of sick joke is this? What are you saying, Kei-chan? You know exactly what's going on, don't you? About what? I don't understand any of this at all. I know you know. No use playing the fool at this late in the game. Stop talking nonsense and try to confuse me! You're going to have done to you what happened to done to Tomitake. What? Same as Tomitake. I really didn't understand what she meant. did that have to do with the syringe?
You're playing dumb, Keiichi. You should have realized it by now, Rena whispered into my ear, laughing as if to admonish me. But even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare.
Playing dumb? Me? About what? What do you mean the same as Onitake? Everyone thought at first it was a hit and run, except when the officer got closer to check if he was still alive. He soon noticed it wasn't a normal situation. His throat was scratched out. From a knife or something? No. Nails. Nails? Nails as in fingernails? Those gouged through? That's right. Tomitake had clawed out his own throat with his own nails and died. There's no way someone could die like that! So then for that to happen, we thought drugs were to blame, but nothing of that nature was detected. That's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tomitake's system. The police told me they didn't find any drugs in Tomitake's body. The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they'd laugh. To assume that such a medicine didn't exist just because the police didn't know about it was completely foolish. Meaning the drug that caused Tomitake to die in such a bizarre manner did exist? If Mio injected this into me, that would probably be all the proof I needed. That would basically mean I'd end up the same as Tomitake, becoming hysterical, stretching my own throat in my last moments, and die. For such an outrageous drug to exist, for Mio to be holding it, and I was going to be injected with it, at the moment I did not feel there was any need to whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying straight for his face, has time to think of a reason as to why it's flying at him? Just give up. Alright then. Mio's actions lacked any gravitas, and that made it even more terrifying. There was none of the ceremony like when someone's sentenced to death. There was no hesitation at all, as if she was brushing her teeth. Mio reached out with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had ran back to the back of my head. The entire world had gone dark. Did I stand up too fast? Or did someone really hit me hard in the back of the head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. I squatted down for a bit. When I came back to my senses, my entire room had changed drastically. The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly, I could tell blood was flowing back to my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Perhaps been hours. It was almost as if the hands on the clock had stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time passed. Really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before. Only a dull silence. Rena wasn't there pinning my arms. Mio wasn't there about to inject me with a needle. No way. Could it be? All of it was a hallucination? There was no other presence in the room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I'd ever had. I was certainly with Rena and Mio. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. I guess that terrible ordeal was a hallucination. Neither Rena or Mio, they would never do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. I don't understand. Kind to everyone. Not discriminating against age or gender. Mio. That Mio was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her, deep red from her head down to her chest. The bright crimson smeared on the walls. That splatter had undoubtedly come from Mio. She always had that bright smile. It was kind to me from the day I transferred. Rena. That same Rena was slumped at my feet, It was making the same pool of blood as Mion. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come to save me? Did they beat these two down? With this metal bat? I finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long had it been there? It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in a deep red. There was no doubt that this was the metal that had been used to mutilate them both. I was holding that weapon. I was the only person in that house. Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. I did this. That's right. My Barakeichi. Of course I did it. I told myself gently, as if coaxing myself. Hey, me. There's no reason for you to remember it, nor is there a need to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you? But the blood. The blood. There's so much. Neither Rena nor Mion had moved an inch. It wasn't just for a split forehead and a trickle of blood. Nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me that it didn't end with just 2 or 3 strikes. Were they dead? Both of them? The depths of my mind were calm. On the surface, I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, my Barakeichi. What happened to your usual calm self? Come on now. Do like you always do. Throw your head back and take a deep breath. Come on. Once. Twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. Calm down. I chanted that over my head and relaxed. Color came back to my vision. Smells reinfused into the air. At the same time, I remember what happened when I blacked out. Remember the beginning of the game, so. Rena and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomitake. Right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Rena as she was pinning my arms. I followed through my spin and rammed my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. Rena tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat was left carelessly by the side of my desk. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape of my mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing recorded. It was recorded just fine. Just the other me inside myself. It told me not to look, and it turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it, didn't mean that the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. The TV was just off. The video was still playing. The tape within me, creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, the horrifying video was still playing on. Compared to this, though, the scene right before my eyes was still so difficult to take in. There was blood splattered everywhere, on the walls, the two of them in these unnatural poses, not a sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing, no matter what circumstances were. My friends, these girls, I had attacked them. I may have even killed them. If I hadn't done this, I would have been done for. Balancing that out on an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive, this was justifiable self-defense. The proof was all there. The two of them collapsed here, Mion's syringe. Mion's syringe filled with some unknown drug would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomitake. And from the fact that both of these two were involved, they'd be able to pick out the criminals one after the other. Still, I might be suspected for this. But that was just fine. Anyway, now this should be a police affair. This wouldn't fade into the darkness like Rena's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Oishi would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning, my wish of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth, that would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It was all a matter of time now. The Dr. Rena called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I need to contact Oishi. At that moment, I remembered. Besides the doctor, a manager had been called. It was easy to imagine they were someone deeply involved with the incidents, judging from Rena and Mion's conversation. The ache in my chest, caused by the gruesome deed I'd done, dissipated rapidly. It was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. Stay calm, my Barakeiichi. It's not over yet. I need to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. Since people were speaking, it must mean there was more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me at the dam site today. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door, pretending to be a doctor and get me to open the door. The rest of them would all rush in at once. At the moment I saw the car parked behind the men, my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van! No mistaking it. That van, the one that tried to run me down. The man in the white coat entered the gate, headed toward the front door. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. I probably couldn't pretend I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they just break the window and enter. I need to get out of here somehow, and then use a public phone to contact Oishi and meet up with him somewhere. First of all, I need a weapon, then shoes. But before all that, there was one thing I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I'll live and reveal the truth about this nonsensical curse of Oyashiro. But what would happen from here on, regardless of how determined I was, may bring about my demise. And that was why there was one thing more important than getting out of here right now. I need to get that clock out quickly and take down the note hidden behind it. Damn it! The tape was sticking to it so fast. It'd be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If I wasn't able to inform Oishi, then the only thing I could rely on was this note. I never thought a piece of torn college-ruled notebook paper could be this reliable before. I had no time. I'd only write what I knew right now. I needed at least some sort of information that would lead them to uncover the truth. Rena and Mia are conspirators of the perpetrators. This was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it, but it was a fact. Anyway, I'd leave all this information that would help them find the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. Also, there was that unidentified person known as the manager. To begin with, the term manager didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the managers from the past incidents, the only one is the construction foreman, the victim for the first murder. Excuse me. The very first victim in the chain of events. Killed in a lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Rena and Mion did both call him manager. They said manager. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who was dead. The police would never even conceive that someone who was deceased could be involved. Could that be some sort of oversight? I didn't know. But even if I didn't know, it could be a big hint for Oishi. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of the string of mysterious deaths that would fall. So then, there must be something hidden there. Please reinvestigate the victim from the dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should be been established after an autopsy. Logically, you would think as much. But was that really the case? Could it have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Yeah, there's something even more important than needing to write. Tomitake's death was from an unknown drug. That's right, a drug. It was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt, just having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue lying on the floor. The syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe onto the back of the clock with plenty of tape, so it would definitely not slip out and fall to the floor. Firmly. Firmly! The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write anymore. But even still, there was one last thing I had to write. I have no idea why it has become like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I wrote on this note. If you're reading this, then I'm probably already dead. But you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that could happen, either dying from the curse or being demoned away, you, who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That's my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. I wasn't certain that I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck it back into the back of the clock, and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray, Oishi, if something happens to me, I'll leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Rena and Mion. This is probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Rena, Mion. I really had thought all of us were friends. But why did it end up like this? I never had any fun in my previous school. I only worried about standardized test scores, about if the school I hoped to get into was where I really wanted to go or a safety net. That's all I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I called friends were also my rivals in studying in competitions and personal records and standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month was really fun. Making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over the club, making a fuss over the festival. Something hot began drifting from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have no obligation to shed tears for them. But they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life. Even if they were trying to kill me. Everything that happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Or could it be those happy days? Or all a facade as well? Was it all a trap, meticulously orchestrated up until today to ensnare me? Could it have been that I just arbitrarily assumed that they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case! Both Rena and Mion, they really were my friends! Those happy days, there was nothing fake or unclear about them. Somebody probably forced them to try to kill me, or their minds were taken over, possessed by the supernatural entity known as Oyashiro. Regardless, both Rena and Mion, they were the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. Wait, they weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends regardless of whether or not they were being forced. There was no way such a thing like being possessed by Oyashiro would happen in reality. Then, did the real Rena and Mion come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly, dumb idea. Having beaten down both Rena and Mion, I was still debating if they were the real ones or fakes. There was no real or fake, only the reality that was before me. Rena and Mion were scrawled out at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit, that I had beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change reality. Rena and Mion were both dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of the strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like my calm state, which was nothing more than a bluff, had receded in that opening. Insanity was leaking out. I killed them. I killed them. Rena and Mion. I killed them! The doorbell rang again. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever had pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass, I would survive. I would survive. I would definitely survive. I killed Rena for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living, so I can't die. For my sake, and for the sake of late Rena and Mion, I have to survive! I ran toward the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again as if to urge me on. Behind the single solitary door, they were there. Keeping quiet, I head toward the kitchen. Head toward the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one? After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly as if not to make a sound. There he is! The back door! A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run! Get out of here, Keiichi! One after another, it felt stuff like rationale and intelligence, those things you use when you have time to spare, spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms and forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart also felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. It probably had no complaints whatsoever, so of course I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran, just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already headed. Even if nobody was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind about where I was headed. Turning around, I felt a presence right next to me. That presence was, without a doubt, chasing me like my shadow. If I took even one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran at full speed. That was the chirping of the Higurashi, telling me it was evening, trying to tell me something. And then I finally heard it, the wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So I ran toward where I could hear more of the Higurashi's chirps. But the further I ran, the farther away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. I'm sorry. 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 I felt that only the Higurashi knew. I need to take a water break. Give me a moment, please. Okay, I'm back, and I need to drink water. If you can't tell, I've been dehydrated. So, okay. The smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down this corridor where the sun didn't even reach? I recall hearing that the tax revenue from tobacco was about 1/10 of the municipality's revenue. This is Oishi's perspective, but I don't feel like reading it like that. We're the most heavily taxed members of this municipality, so I really wish they'd show us a little more respect. Why would you discard the 5 manzu there? It's just decreasing your options. One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with a mahjong magazine called Next Turn. In Cantonese, it's called I can't say it right now. You're still in Tenpai if you cut the 5 manzu. If you're betting on Haite, then shouldn't you be going into it with Mangan? Kuma, look at the pond. They all discarded 5 manzu. It's a safe tile. You'd hate it. At the end of the game, someone was sitting on Tenpai on the last turn, wouldn't you? The kid let out another groan, put out a cigarette, and took out another one. I just don't agree. Why would you reduce your own options? By the way, you can't call Rome with your winning tile in that Haite. What? Why is that? Just then I heard a voice coming down from the hall. Are you here, Oishi? You have a call from a civilian. Whoa, ain't that something? Well, see you soon. Why can't you call Ron on it? Hold on for a sec. Oishi! The man sitting in the seat, Oishi, was heading toward a wave at the telephone receiver. Outside line from a payphone. Oh, why thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Oishi. Who is it? Oishi, hello? If it isn't Maibara, why, good evening. From the tone in Maibara's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. This is the first time Maibara had phoned me. He was calling from a payphone. Please calm down. Something happened. His voice was erratic all over the line. He completely lost his own sense of composure. After checking that nobody else could hear, I prompted him in a hushed tone. What happened? Calm down, Maibara. I can have the local officers head to your location. I'll be there soon, too. I think that's impossible. His voice was quivering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people even as he was making the call, was he? Maibara, you're calling from a payphone right now, right? Where's that payphone? There were no other sounds besides Maibara's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched out a note, thrust it at a colleague. Hinamizawa phone booth. Calm down, Maibara. What is your current situation? It usually wasn't a good idea to tell someone panicking to do so, but this was not a usual case. Maibara didn't just get in trouble, get away, and then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now, but yelling at Maibara right now would just needlessly cause him to be even more frantic. Maibara wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell us something more than that, and whatever that was. If I didn't get it from this call, I was certain there would never be another chance. There's only one booth in Hinamizawa. A patrol car is on the way. 5 minutes. It's too long. How many officers are in there? 2. Not enough. If it was as I imagined, there would likely be quite a few people surrounding Maibara. 5 minutes was too long. Did you call the officer station in Hinamizawa? He's scheduled to be on patrol. They're currently out. It'll be impossible to contact them. God damn! Kuma, bring the car around. Understood. Hello. Oishi? Hello, it's alright. I can hear you loud and clear. There was something wrong with Maibara. That wasn't a normal coughing sound. Vomiting. Was it blood? Had he already been attacked? Was he injured? Maibara, the police are on their way. They'll be there in a couple of minutes, so hold on somehow. Hello? Can you hear me? Maibara! I could hear on the other end of the line that he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head. Maibara! Who's the culprit? How many are there? I thought at first the culprit was human. I couldn't tell if that was a cough or vomiting. Are you alright, Maibara? I thought that the culprit was a person, and not Oyashiro's curse. Up until right now. But I guess in the end, it was an intense bout of coughing and vomiting. But I guess Oyashiro does exist. No, he's here. Maibara, please, just calm down. I've been thinking it was strange for a while now. It's been following me this whole time. I run and run and run and run and run, but it just sticks to me like my shadow. But slowly, so slowly, it's taking itself into my back. Maibara, are they right now, perhaps? Right behind you? Behind me. Right behind me. Please, Maibara. I can tell you're scared. But please, who is it that's right behind you? I can't just look behind me. If I do, I understand that you're scared, but please tell me. You just need to turn around a bit. Who is it? Who's behind you, Maibara? Right after she said that, I could hear him vomiting intensely. A fall was a nightmarish sound. Maibara, it couldn't be that you're clawing out your own throat. There was no answer, but I could hear something like scratching. There was a bang as if something was being hit. Maibara probably dropped the receiver. I could hear groaning and vomiting over the other end and repeating abnormal noise. Hello? Hello, Maibara? Hello? What was he saying? The way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Hello? Maibara? What was he repeating? What exactly? Suddenly the line went dead. Did he use up his time? It was because it was a payphone. Oishi, the car is good to go. Oishi. It was, I'm sorry. Oishi. That was what he was repeating over and over again. I had a gut feeling there was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling in from the open window. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying any attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Were they trying to tell me something? Only the Higurashi knew. That's how I felt. July 1983. In Himizawa, a remote village near Shishibone City, there was a murder involving 2 female students. Well, I can't read that. The suspects call over his 2 female classmates, Ryugu Rena, Sonozaki Mion, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the 2nd floor of his house. The inside of the room was covered with a significant quantity of splattered blood. There were signs of his struggles with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime, the entryway, living room, and kitchen all had traces of a struggle. At the entryway, the shoe rack and wall had evidence of being impacted by a strong blunt force. It is believed to have been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no traces of blood, it is believed the destruction occurred before the murders. There is a possibility the suspect overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back and then thrown aside. It is hard to believe that this had a connection to the struggle of the victims, and thus the reason for this remains unknown. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart, and its contents were spread out on the floor. Garbage was strewn about in the surrounding area, and hampers were believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It is believed the suspect had for some reason taken out the garbage and struck it with his fist. The reason for this remains unknown. In addition, there's a note on the fridge stuck. The words were written, "Was there a needle?" The meaning behind this remains unclear. Just in case the garbage was searched, but a needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional, it had been left open ever since the suspect moved in. The garage door found closed. The suspect's fingerprints were found in the garage door. The reason behind this remains unknown. The suspect fled the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer, Hinamizawa Local PD, found found him. At the time of discovery, the suspect was unconscious in critical condition. He was rushed to the local hospital for treatment, but did not regain consciousness and died within 24 hours. The results of the autopsy indicate the immediate cause of death to have been hypovolemic shock. It was determined that the suspect had clawed at his own throat with his fingernails, resulting in bleeding and causing his death. With the similarity of the death of Tomitake the prior week, the police believe there is a connection and have opened an investigation. However, due to the wishes of the local authorities, it will be a confidential investigation. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected drugs were involved, but as with Tomitake, no traces were discovered. What prompted all of this remains inexplicable. As such, this case is being treated as an act committed on impulse. However, with several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident, it is possible it was premeditated. Separated from his group of friends. Isolation. Inexplicable behavior. Several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observed displaying aggressive behavior as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates actually heard portions of what he was saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared to his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police have begun an investigation of the possibility that this crime was not committed on impulse, but instead planned several days in advance. Afterwards, a note was found in the suspect's room he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets of B5 college rule notebook that had been torn from half. Trying to conceal it was stuck behind a clock. The contents are written in the appendix. The police believe it to have strongly related to the incident. The police changed their line of investigation based on the possibility that the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubt on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulsive or premeditated? With the situation unclear and no further developments, the case has been labeled unresolved. However, the following year, suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written on 2 halves of B5 paper from 2 separate sheets, but was originally an original sheet of B5 paper. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It's highly probable the person who eliminated the lines in question is not the suspect. In addition, judging from the traces of large quantities of cell phone tape being stuck to the back of the clock, the speculation that something other than a note was stuck there has arisen. The person who had first discovered the crime connection detective room to have the connection to the incident was Kurado Oishi. He underwent voluntary questioning but denies involvement in the damage to the notes. The suspect's note. I, Maibara Keiichi, am in fear for my life. I do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I do know, it has something to do with Oyashiro's curse. Rena and Mio are conspirators of the perpetrators. There are 4 to 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is all in the first sheet. Everything below this has been ripped out. This is from the second sheet. Everything above this has been ripped out. I have no idea why it's become like this. If you're reading this, I'm probably already dead. Although the only difference may be the presence or a lack of a body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. Maibara Keiichi. See? Keiichi. Ichi. Right there. So that's how you know. That. So I'm just gonna read it like that. Okay? Ooh! I don't know if I'll read it just yet. It's kind of a pain. I forgot that we have like an extra tea party note thing. We should probably read it though. We will.
Higurashi when they cry Onikakushi, a visual novel by the Zero 7th expansion. How was it? If you enjoyed it even a little bit, it would make me happy. Even a little bit is stretching it. That incredibly dark ending made me angry, you know. Made us angry. As I understand it, this Onikakushi chapter is supposed to be somewhat of a prologue to the entire series. How can the prologue have such an incredibly dark ending?
Yeah, but that doesn't it happen sometimes? The player digging through the story in order to avoid a bad ending is the point of these types of games after all.
It's still just the first chapter. I'm looking forward to the next one.
What happens in the next chapter? Rena, do you know?
Yeah, they said the next chapter will introduce another aspect of the story. That's a strange way of putting it. What does that mean? In this chapter, they introduced a string of mysterious deaths that were happening in Hinamizawa recently, right? The next chapter will introduce some of the history of Hinamizawa.
No, never mind. I won't say anything. With one strange event happening after another, I totally got lost. What exactly is Oyashiro's curse about? Actually, what is Oyashiro to begin with? They didn't explain it much.
I haven't heard much about it, but I have kind of a bad feeling about it. It feels like it'll be another one of those scary stories where somebody gets cursed again.
Tough luck, eh, Kei-chan? What kind of curse is he gonna get hit with next time?
However, I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of story it's going to be.
Sorry for being late. My bad, my bad. Hey everybody, good work today. Same to you! Huh? Where's Kei-chan? Keiichi's already operating the script for the next chapter. Must be hard being the main character.
Huh? That's too bad. He could have at least poked in to say hello. It's probably because he doesn't have any character art, so he couldn't poke his head even if he wanted to.
Rika, that's what we prefer is a personal problem. In any case, that story really has a lot of trouble, especially for Keiichi and Rena.
Trouble? That was a mother of all bad ends! I wonder what was the identity of that thing that attacked Keiichi?
My theory was the work of the people made to look like a curse.
But at the end, Keiichi made that phone call.
Yeah, I also thought that call was strange. At that point, Kei-chan should have been certain that the culprits were people.
That really was a strange phone call. It almost sounded like he was being chased by a ghost or something. Just from that phone call, it really makes me think that it was just the work of a curse after all.
Since we're all here, why don't we all share our theories? Let's start with Sonozaki. I absolutely believe it was people. I think it was a man-made incident. It was just imitating the strange folklore floating around Hinamizawa.
Certainly. Every year on the day of the festival for another link in the chain of mysterious deaths that happen certainly is suspicious.
That so-called chain of mysterious deaths, definitely somebody tried to reenact the folklore. Definitely.
I think it was the curse. Looking at the scene where Keiichi went berserk in the entryway and last seen the phone call, I just couldn't come up with the conclusion that the person was the culprit. When you say it that way, it really wasn't the type of scene that would make you think it was the work of an actual person.
Yeah, but even then, I think it was a person who did it. That scene with the one with the entryway, I think it might have been a delusional episode, brought by a post-traumatic stress disorder.
I wouldn't know what's going on anymore, even if you didn't use such complicated words. In other words, Keiichi was so scared that he was imagining things. Then, what was the meaning behind that scene? What exactly was the mysterious presence behind Keiichi?
A red herring. Redherring.
Mi-chan, what do you mean by a red herring?
Like old man Tomitake here said, that scene that was the result of Kei-chan having a stress-induced delusion from being mentally cornered. To expand on that further, it was a ploy to make the character think it was a curse. That's why it was a red herring.
When you say it like that, but...
just means that there's a possibility.
In that case, the theory that Oishi proposed during the story, that it was a conspiracy by the villagers, was correct? What's the man himself have to say about that?
Me? Makes you think, eh? Huh? I totally thought that Oishi would be behind the people explanation. During the story, I said it was definitely the work of people, but if a person really was to blame, that leaves a lot of loose ends.
Like what? Let's hear what Detective Oishi's theory is.
First of all, if a human is the culprit, then there has to be a motive. In other words, somebody has to gain something from it. So what you mean is, if this is the work of people, there would have been something gained from causing the chain of mysterious deaths? Exactly. I felt that somebody would have benefited from the deaths of people related to the dam development, but the recent victims weren't related to that at all. First off, who benefits from killing Keiichi? I see. If you say it like that, my case is kind of weak too.
I mean, none of your money was stolen. There was no way it was human culprits. But that's not everything there is to it, right? Like Michan said, there might have been some sort of reason for them to reenact the folklore.
Exactly! This wasn't a murder where you consider the typical motives. It makes me think that this was most likely some sort of ritualistic murder to reenact the bloodstained history of the village.
So I'll ask the question of the hour. Who gains from this reenactment?
It's not about a simple benefit. It's more of a psychological reason. I think, and maybe this was an act of revenge. Something native to the region? Fate was unable to be fooled this time around. I see. A member of a repressed family looking to air out some old grudge of their ancestors, something like that? I don't like that. Then what is it? It could be that you're leaning toward the curse explanation, Oishi.
That's right! The man playing the detective said so! It's decided it was a curse!
If, like how Maibara said during the story, it was the case that Oyashiro possessed Rena and Sanazaki and committed those acts, that would fit the evidence the most, as much as I hate to say it.
Actually, I'm of the same opinion as Oishi. I can't come up with any other explanation for the normally kind Rena and Michan to suddenly start acting strange like that.
About that, it may sound strange coming from the person herself, but I think that Mio, did it.
I don't get what Mi is saying. I'd like an explanation.
Oh, sorry. In other words, I think this may end up being a really cruel story.
Huh? Wait, Michan, you don't mean...
If you follow the trail of evidence to the very end, that's how it would seem. I also have my suspicions. In other words, Rena and Sonozaki both actually had those personalities to begin with and were merely deceiving Maibara. Am I right?
I don't like that at all! This is all the curse's fault! Rena and Mion and everybody else are all kind, nice people! I think that too! I think that Rena and Mion are really good people at heart. I think that during the story they were definitely possessed by something.
So Rena also thinks it was a curse. Then let me ask everybody who thinks it was a curse. There has to be a reason for a curse, right? I don't think there would be something indiscriminately cursing everything. Can somebody explain that?
A curse is a curse! Human logic won't get us anywhere.
Sadako, a personified deity, is in the end nothing more than a creation of people. That's why their method of thinking is also understandable to humans. Just take a look at the Greek pantheon. They cry, get angry, get jealous. Basically, they're just like humans.
So what you're saying is that Oyashiro is cursing people with some benefit in mind?
That's an odd way of putting it, but basically, yes. That's why they say far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. You do have a point.
Basically, it doesn't matter if Oyashiro are humans. There has to be a reason. But Rika, what if that reason isn't clear? I don't know. That's right. This is still just the prologue. There's still a lot of stuff that hasn't been revealed yet.
to come up with any more theories at this point. No! I won't be satisfied until all this is made clear.
Mune seems rather particular about this as well.
We'll just make the best with what we know. Doesn't this feel interesting, like a club a little bit?
Yeah, if you put it that way, it does seem interesting.
Well, then let's summarize. Let's see. I think it was a curse. Tomitake thinks it was people, right? Yeah. I'll go with it being people. I also agree with people explanation. That's not to say I hate such fantastic things like curses, but in this particular case, the connection to a curse is a little weak. Do the people explanation then. Rena was on the curse side of things, right?
Yep. Sadako and I believe it was a curse, right? Yeah. I think it was a curse. People who say it was Rena and Mia were evil to begin with are more befitting of a curse.
Well, I don't want to believe that my own personality was that twisted, but I have to be cool when I'm in club mode. If I base my choice on just emotion, I'll regret it, you know? Well, now, it doesn't really matter which side you pick, does it? Huh? Rika hasn't said anything yet. What do you think?
I don't think that Oyashiro is a bad god.
Huh? That's an interesting opinion.
I don't want to worship some bad god that just curses people. I'd like a generous god, more than one that curses. That's right, Rika is a shrine maiden. Yep, good opinion.
Then what? If Rika doesn't believe that it was Oyashiro, then what do you think the perpetrators were human after all?
We'll just go with that.
Well now, that means the votes are split right down the middle. So half of us think it's a curse and half of us think it's people. Rena, just for reference, what did the test players who played the beta version think?
Yeah, there were a lot more players who believe in the people explanation.
See? See? Right there! Our veteran comrades are cool, collected, and very observant.
But the beta version only finished partway through the story. That's right! Even the people who play the beta version might change their minds if they got through to the very end.
What should we do then? This means the opinions are still split. It's no fun if we don't sell this. We don't need to be an odd number of judges. In other words, we need one more opinion.
Perfect timing then. Why don't we ask Keiichi himself? Let's call him. The opinion of the victim himself is very valuable. Since that's decided, it's time for the phone. Hello, Keiichi, it's Rena. Are you busy with work right now?
Yeah, really busy. Just when I thought I'd get a break because the chapter is over, it's already time for the next one. How's Kei-chan? Busy?
Yeah, he's moping.
I can hear you, you know. It must be nice having a wrap-up party. I wanted to go too.
You can come if you get some character art for yourself. Rika, that's a secret. Sorry about that, Keiichi. Anyways, during the current chapter, Keiichi, didn't you die? We were all just talking about who the culprit might be.
Basically, we're deadlocked on whether it was people or Oyashiro's curse that killed you. I'm really sorry, even though you're busy reviewing the script.
Keiichi, which do you think it was?
That's obvious, isn't it? Ah, shit, what the fuck?
Which?
Is it both of them? Targeted by suspicious people in the village and cursed by some strange Oyashiro on top of that. It's both humans and a curse. Everybody's just picking on me.
So very, very pitiful. Next time I'll pat your head for you.
In the end, the opinion's still split, huh? I think this is over, then. We might have missed something.
Well then, please look forward to the next release, Higurashi When They Cry, Watanagashi.
Hooray! Just like, gives me the tea party vibes of Umineko. believe we are done here. Thank you if anybody has been listening in or not. Or if you watch this all the way when I post this on YouTube. Anyway, thank you. I have to close the game. And, oh, yeah. Probably good to check. Okay. Wow. I thought it was like 2 hours. My throat was getting dry and shit. Okay, I gotta go. Bye! I can't wait. Next time we're gonna read Watanagashi. And on YouTube, when I upload the thumbnail for Watanagashi, I'm going to switch it to Mion. But for now, it's gonna be Rena. So, yep. Bye.